Alright, it is day 3 of the Silent Movie Marathon 2. I remember I said yesterday that I want to do at least 3 films yesterday on day 2, and I did technically with the Buster Keaton short, but wasn't 3 full feature-length films. And I think I should stop really trying to set myself down to things like that, because this thing is going to take weeks either way. So, you know, it's all good really. I shouldn't try and pressure myself into watching too many. I've got other stuff to do. This isn't a case of me being able to devote all my free time to this, but after watching this, I mean, I was just so content just to kind of sit this out for the night, basically. I was so taken away by this film. There was stuff I didn't mention about it. I mean, there's a great shot where in the big climax of the film where these characters are doing something, and in the background a fight is taking place, but it's blurred and out of focus, and it gives such a great depth of field. So many great tricks that that Lotte Reiniger used in this film. Incredible stuff, and all the short films included on this Blu-ray are in high definition as well. So I'm going to check them out at some point. I don't think quite a few of them aren't silent films, but maybe I'll include them at the end or something like that. And yeah, there's great stuff in the book that I want to read. So I'll probably come back to this at the end of the video, like go through like my favourites of the marathon. This one will definitely be then. I'll talk more about it, but I can't get the score or the images or the adventure out of my mind all night. It was fantastic. But today I'm going to kick this off. Again, this might be the only one of the day. It doesn't matter. You're watching this whole big thing, whether I'm going to release this as a one video or a mini-series. I shouldn't say, you know, oh, it's just this for today, like you're watching it today. You're not watching it today. You're watching it in one thing. So, but anyway, next up there is, for me, I'm going to go with Battleship Potemkin. This is a Russian film by Sergei Eisenstein. The Soviet Influence, this is called. I believe this is volume 2 of the Soviet Influence, released by BFI. Also comes with John Grierson's Drifters, which is, I really don't know what relationship it has to Battleship Potemkin, other than it was released with Battleship Potemkin when it was released in the UK in 1929, I believe. So yeah, maybe I'll kind of look more into it and find out why this is on there. Maybe I'll give it a watch, I don't know, but for me the one that I want to check out is Battleship Potemkin. Heard about it for so long. I mean, I heard about that back in college when I was in film and TV production, and I wasn't really interested in the silent cinema, but I heard of Battleship Potemkin, so it's supposed to be one of those really influential films, so I'm just going to dive right in with it, and yeah, give it a watch, check it out, and then let you know, of course, as always, what my thoughts were on it afterwards. Tension is ridiculous. How fast are they going to go in that orchestra? I might have just been taken in by the propaganda of that there, and hook, line and sinker. That was a good ending. Yeah, amazing film. A little bit of a masterpiece there, I think. Battleship Potemkin. I'll reformulate my thoughts and come back to you. Okay, so I've sat down and I've thought about it a little bit and let it kind of mull over in my head a little, read a few things up about the film, Battleship Potemkin, directed by Sergei Eisenstein, which I did say earlier, but it is a propaganda film from 1925, and it is a film that is very much designed to, you know, make people believe a certain thing. The storyline of the film is about a true uprising, a mutiny that took place on the ship Battleship Potemkin in 1905. So I guess when this film came out in 1925, it had happened 20 years previously, and it's about the workers, the sailors on the ship, revolting against the leaders and taking them out, and it's all about kind of a revolution and the rise of communism and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not too well versed in the history of that, but I definitely could see the significance of the red flag being raised. And there's a shot in the film where the flag goes up, and it's, the film's in black and white obviously, but the flag is red. And that brings me to like a certain thing I want to talk about. Well, I'll just keep that there for a second, the red flag. The famous sequence in Battleship Potemkin is the Odessa Steppe sequence, which has been parodied and referenced and kind of homaged in films, for the past 90 years. An incredible sequence, and people kind of credit Sergei Eisenstein as being an innovator of the editing techniques used in cinema today in terms of fast cutting and montage style editing, basically. The Odessa Steppe sequence, lots of fast cuts, lots of shots of different things, and lots of dynamic motion being displayed on screen. But I have to say that I don't really buy it that much, because, and I think that whenever you say that, wow, Connie just threw a jacket onto Lily's head because she was licking a wound because she's an injured cat. Okay then, carry on with the review. Yeah, I'm not sure if I buy that. But then I think whenever you look at someone, you say, "Oh, it's the first of this. It's the first time anyone's done that." Innovation and things. There's always probably something that someone who did it a little bit earlier. Because I watched yesterday the French film Cour Fidèle, as you will know, and that film had a great scene which was really fast editing and almost montage style, the carnival scene, and that was 2 years before this. So I don't necessarily think Eisenstein invented the montage style, and people like to kind of latch onto things and say, oh, it's the first time you've ever seen this or the first time you've ever seen that, and I don't know. I don't know whether I mean, it's good to give people credit like that. It's good to make people watch films like this because it's supposedly so innovative. And I'm not saying that this is like old hat or anything, but it certainly isn't the earliest instance I've seen of great editing and fast cutting and stuff like that. But the Odessa Steppe sequence, taking nothing away from it, was absolutely incredible. The film itself is split into 5 parts, 5 acts, if you will. A lot of German silent films have kind of, Act 1, Act 2. And this one is Part 1, Part 2 with little subtitles. And the first part deals with why the men on the ship, the Battleship Potemkin, are not happy with their, with the leaders and stuff, because they get like meat to eat and it's like rotting and stuff, and there's like maggots on it, and like the ship's doctor is like, they're not maggots, they're just fly larvae, you can wash them off. And so it all builds up, and then the second part of the film is the big uprising, an incredible sequence. It just really gets your blood going. It got my blood pumping. It's just like, they're fighting sticking it to the man in a way, and there's a certain sense of liberation you get watching something like that. And I don't know if it's a problem I had with the film or whether it was a good thing, because it's a real life situation that they're showing in the film. But the Odessa Steppes sequence of the film was heavily dramatized. It didn't go down like it does in the film. And the film is an absolute massacre. That shot of the kid who gets shot in the back of the head and he's lying there crying with blood streaming down his head, and then the mother picks him up and she gets shot down, and they're just advancing, just shooting anyone, and the babe, the pram rolling down the stairs, absolutely classic imagery. But it's really overdone and heavy-handed to the point of, communism is the way forward, and the revolution and things. And the film was made to kind of, for the time, I guess, to sway the public opinion of things. And I don't know the finer details of why this film was made, whether Sergei Eisenstein was recruited by someone to make it, or whether that was his own thoughts he wanted to impose on someone else. I don't know. But for me, because this is a film that is 90 years old, it's hard to really get bogged down in the politics of it. And for me, I just watched it and kind of enjoyed it for just the story it was telling, even if it was stretching the truth and fictionalizing certain parts of history. I suppose it's probably a bit of an insult to the people who were killed during that kind of revolution in Odessa. Again, I'm not too sure about the finer details of what actually happened, but from what I understand, there was instances where people were shot, but not on the level that you see in the film. And then the ending of the film, again, I'm not sure kind of if that really happened or not, but for me, just viewing it as a film, I loved it. The editing was great, the direction was fantastic, the shots, Again, just the Odessa step sequence, you have to kind of just marvel at, just the sheer horror of it, is incredible, and it's just a very striking, that's the word that I guess would kind of characterize this film for me, as striking. Visually, thematically, it just deals with very heavy. I mean, I just loved seeing, the big revolution happens, or the small but big, the uprising on the ship happens, and one of the guys who kind of leads the uprising even says in one of the intertitles, and so the man who begun it was the man who was killed, and he's the one guy who gets shot by one of the officers, basically. And so all the sailors, they take his body to the Odessa harbor and they put him in a tent, and he's kind of settled, his body's lying there with it, holding a candle, and there's a little note on him that says, basically he died for the food, basically. It's hinting at, it was all down to just the fact that they had rotting food and they wouldn't do anything about it, and all escalated, and he died because of it. And so his body is in the harbor, and just the locals start coming and looking at his body, and I just couldn't help but think, if this happened now, or, well, maybe not in kind of the Western world, but in some parts of the world, I could just imagine someone's dead body being there and no one really doing much. But all the people came down, and this huge congregation, these great scenes of just hundreds of people walking down to the harbour, and he becomes a martyr, and he becomes a catalyst for revolution, and people are so upset, and there's people crying in the harbour that this man has died because of what happened. And I just find it quite moving in a way, that just the thought of a society where when one person dies, it's enough to make others cry and want to do something for change and to lead a revolution. Again, I am kind of being hooked in by the propaganda of the film, I guess, in that instance, and it is, again, not really realistic. But I like to believe in a world like that in a way, so I kind of enjoyed that part of it, as sad as it was. But then you have the officers who were killed by, well, I don't know if they were killed, but they definitely were thrown off the ship, and they probably died, I guess. So again, it goes all in hand with murder and whether that's right or not, and I just think about all these things when I watch this film, and that's what I enjoyed about it. I know Thomas Pollock, a good friend of mine and YouTuber, said that he appreciates this film more than he enjoys it, and I can understand that, but I did actually really enjoy it. And by the end, that whole ending sequence, the build up to the potential fight between the ships and the battleship Potemkin, I was like on the edge of my seat. I mean, the music's just building and building and building. I believe this is the original score as well, which was really good. I always love it when it's the original score, and the music was great, and it really just built it up to like this unbelievable level. And then what happened was kind of, I liked the ending. The last shot is incredible, where the ship comes up to the camera. That was, I don't know how they pulled that off, but it was really great. So yeah, as I said earlier, it's a little bit of a masterpiece, I think, but not for everyone. Definitely an important film in the history of cinema, and just historically, in terms of propaganda, in terms of technique as well. I mean, I say that the editing, the fast cutting has been done before, but it is really done incredibly well in this film. The Odessa step sequence is just required viewing by any film fan, I think. Very, again, striking. So that's my thoughts on the film. I can't really think of anything else to say, and yeah, that's about it, and then we'll just carry on. I don't know what's going to happen next in this video, but definitely recommend it. I think Drifters is a documentary that is based on the sea, kind of. It's well, it doesn't really say on the back. I did read up a synopsis, but I think it's following some kind of some fishermen or something like that. So I don't really know how well it kind of fits in with Battleship Potemkin, other than the fact that it was double billed with it in the UK release of the film. So there we go, the classic Russian propaganda film, Battleship Potemkin. Alright, this seems to be a running thing that isn't really planned, but for the third night in a row, we're going to have dinner and watch a Buster Keaton film. Another one from the short film collection, and it is The Frozen North. So we're just going to have dinner, get on with it, and then talk about it afterwards, I guess. And today we have pasta bolognese, which is always really nice, and we haven't had it for a while, so I'm really looking forward to it, and continuing on with this collection, which I've only got a few films left that I haven't seen, so let's do it. Alright, we're done with The Frozen North. It was quite a short one for his shorts. They're usually around 20 to 23 minutes. This one was 17 minutes.
Really felt like longer.
Dinner was great, very spicy though, more spicy than usual. Had to go get some milk to counteract. I really liked it. I like spicy. I just needed some milk to kind of just settle it off a bit. The film itself, Frozen North, again, much like Daydreams, probably one of his weaker ones. Set in a snowy landscape, and it's just crazy from the get-go because I've never seen this before. He's the bad guy. The film opens, he tries to kind of stick up a whole bar and steal all their money, then he walks into a house and he just kills this man and his wife dead in cold blood. It's like, what the hell's going on? And then he meets up with Joe Roberts, you know, Buster Keaton regular, and it seems they're kind of partners in crime, but you're not quite sure what's going on. And then
it seemed like he was his servant because he did everything that he told him to do.
Yeah, maybe like
play the guitar, okay, la la la.
Yeah. Lots of things going on, lots of different characters, lots of female characters who looked the same. You just didn't really know what was going on. The plot was very weak, or just poorly put together in terms of like who everyone was and what exactly did he want with that other girl. I mean, I'm speaking as if you've seen the film. You probably haven't, but there was some good gags in it though. There's a good gag involving him fishing in ice and falling through the ice and stuff. There's a couple of pretty good gags in there. Nothing like proper laugh out loud funny for me though. Well, yeah, I laughed out loud, but nothing like really funny. And then the ending made me laugh. And the ending,
the ending made it okay.
Yeah,
in a way. It like,
and the ending,
fine.
Yeah, the ending was like, okay, it kind of makes sense now. But the ending is something you can look at and go, oh, that again. But at this point, you know, in like 1922, in 1922, this is probably a trope that wasn't really established that well. I won't say what it is, but oh, fuck it, I'll say it. You're not going to watch the film unless you're a hardcore Buster Keaton fan. It was all a dream, you know? And he sat in the cinema with holding the newspaper, so it's pretty funny. But still, despite that and the ending making it make a bit more sense, it was one of the weaker ones for sure.
Because the ending was like, wait, why is she? What are they doing?
Yeah, there's a bit where.
How did he end up? Who's she?
There's a brilliant bit.
When did he get a gun?
There's a brilliant bit.
Wait, he had a gun, but was it the same one? It was very confusing.
Yeah, like, cracked me up when this woman it's just like...
And they all look the same. All the women in all of Buster Keaton's movies look exactly the same. They have that 20s, curly, short, dark brown hair, and they got that puckery, lippy lipstick thingy going on, and the same makeup, and they look the same in the fucking face. It's creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's always like, oh, it's the same actress again. And I'm like,
but this
it's
one
actually
had 4 women, and they all look very similar.
They did look very similar.
And she looks the same. The woman in Buster Keaton movies look the same in every movie.
Yeah. There's, well,
He's got
mostly.
his thing for brunettes.
Anyway, well, clearly. What was I going to say? Yeah, there's a scuffle going on with like people in this house, and then another woman walks past the window and like looks in and is like, oh, what's going on there? And Connie's like, who's she? And she pulls the gun out. Why she got a gun? The confusion was off the charts on this one. And I will say, on the note of women in his films, there's an actress called Sybil Seeley, I think, and she's in 3 of his films. People call it like the trilogy that she's in, and I actually think she's probably the best leading woman in his films because she doesn't look like all the other ones. She has kind of similar hair, but like she has a more kind of natural face, if that makes sense. Like she's not made up as much, it seems.
Which one are you talking about?
She's in 1 Week, which is the one where they build a house together. You've seen that one.
She looks the same.
No, she definitely has more character to me.
Every time I watch a movie, it's like her again. Every time.
No, do you remember that scene where they build the house and then she's in the bath and then like she looks at the camera and she's like, oh, and she like puts her hand in front of the camera, really funny bit. I think she's a lot better in terms of like acting and look than the other women in his films. Not that there's terrible ones, but she stands out to me as being a little bit more relatable than some of the other ones who do look very similar.
When it comes to acting, maybe, but to me, they all look the same.
Fair enough. Anyway, so that was that, and I don't know what I'll watch next. I'll get back to you. Alright, I've decided what film I'm going to go with next. This will be the last one of day 3, and it is the 8th film so far in Silent Movie Marathon 2, Phantom of the Opera, with Lon Chaney, the man of 1,000 faces. I haven't seen him in anything, but I know he's a very famous actor of the period, and this is supposed to be one of his best, the Phantom of the Opera. From 1925. There was a 1929 sound reissue version, but I think that's lost, and the Blu-ray has 12 minutes from that, but that's all that survived. Luckily, the 1925 black and white version is intact and presented here in high definition, though it says on the back here, wait, 1929, silent with music. I'm not sure what's going on here. So a special feature is the original 1925 version with newly commissioned piano accompaniment, and it's 103 minutes long. Yet, it says that the main feature is 91 minutes long, so I actually have no clue. Alright, let's just read the back here. New restoration, accompanied by Carl Davis's celebrated score, with a wealth of special features, including the 1925 version of the film, and a sequence from the sound reissue version. Was there 3 versions? I really don't know what's going on here. I'll just pop it on, and I'll see what it is. I'll figure it out later, and then we'll get to my thoughts on it. Alright, I'm done with the Phantom of the Opera, one of the versions anyway. There's a bit of confusion there when I was about to watch it, and I'm still not too clued in as to what really is the right version to watch. Basically, from what I've gleaned, I've just spent about 10 minutes looking it up. This presents the 1929/1930 re-release of the film. So the film was made, came out in 1925, was directed by Rupert Julian, but he left the project shortly afterwards. I believe they got someone else to come in to finish it, or someone to come in and work on the re-release in 1929. And when it came out in 1929, it was a part sound version. I think they didn't get anyone to do the voice of Lon Chaney's character because he was under contract to another studio at that point. Lon Chaney is the guy who plays the Phantom himself. But they got I think they reshot parts of the film as well, and they rearranged things. There's different scenes and things, different ending. Or I think that they cut out one bit of the ending of the original 1925 version and just end with an earlier part of the ending, if that makes sense, in the 1929 version. So it's a different film actually. Because I saw that it said that it has the original 1925 version as a special feature on this Blu-ray, and it's like about 10, maybe 12 minutes longer. So I flipped through that, and unfortunately it wasn't in high definition, it was in standard definition on the Blu-ray. But like the intertitles were different, you know, there was a couple of different lines, one that was very crucial to me, to a certain character in the film, so I was a bit surprised that they changed the intertitles as well. And you know, the scenes looked a little bit different, a little bit longer, and different things going on. I mean, there's a lot of the same stuff, but they reshot a lot of things with the 2 lead actors, Norman Kerry, I believe, and Mary Philbin, who play like the couple in the film, Raoul and Christine. So the story is, well, is there anything else I can mention about well, yeah, I guess I can still talk. I'll just keep talking about the cuts. So the one I watched in high definition was the sound version, but without the sound, or the 1929 version, but it wasn't the sound version. It was the silent version with music. It's all very confusing, and they've restored it as a 2K restoration. There's some scenes that don't look as good as others, and in fact the screen is smaller. For the most part, it looks pretty damn good. But there's definitely some scenes where you can tell it isn't, you know, they're working with the best that they got basically. But a lot of it is tinted. A hell of a lot of the film is tinted, and it was gorgeous. And there's an amazing scene, the masquerade ball scene, where the Phantom is there, and then later on in that scene he's on top of the Paris Opera House with this flowing red cape, and the cape is coloured red, and it just looks awesome. Such a striking image, just a nightmarish vision of this character. And I still am none the wiser as to whether this colour tinting was used in the original release of the film in 1925, whether it was implemented in the 1929 version. I'm not too sure. I've read that 17 minutes of the film were originally tinted and coloured using a certain process. But what you see on the Blu-ray is basically computerized colorization. I don't know how I feel about that. And I'm not sure if, you know, other films that you see on Blu-ray have been digitally, you know, colorized in that sense to present the original, you know, look of the film. I really don't know. So if anyone out there knows more about the history of this film in terms of the versions and stuff, from what I've read on Wikipedia and IMDb, it's a bit hard to kind of differentiate what is the best version to watch. But I definitely would be interested in seeing the 1925 version just for the different cut, basically. It is a different cut of the film. The original version, I mean, this one, the main one that's presented in high definition, does have stuff that was refilmed with the same actors 5 years later or 4 years later. So very interesting process, really, that they an idea that they did that. You know, the sound films were coming into play in the late 20s, early 30s, so they decided to kind of redo it in sound. And there is on here as a special feature in high definition 12 minutes, reel 5, from the 1929 sound version of the film, and it's reel 5. And I had a look at that, but you know, didn't watch all of it. So yeah, that's the, you know, the whole kind of, you know, what versions of the film there are and what you can watch and stuff. I know the American Blu-ray has 3 cuts of the film. I don't know if the transfers are different or what, but the film itself, I've never seen Phantom of the Opera in any way, shape or form, whether it's the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, whether it's the original book, or whether it's the film adaptations, musicals, anything. This is my first experience with it, and I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I love the story. You know, you have this mysterious phantom character who lurks within the Paris Opera House, and he's in love with Christine, this opera performer, and he kind of lures her into his spell, basically, and then she finds out, you know, what he really looks like, and he's what's underneath the mask, so to speak. And I liked where it kind of explained where he came from in a way, and it almost feels like it's ambiguous whether you take that or you take the more supernatural kind of thought towards it. But I really liked how the character was explained. It wasn't over-explained either. You can kind of make up your own mind and fill in the gaps with your imagination. And for me, you know, the Phantom is presented here as the villain, as the dastardly, evil, you know, Phantom of the Opera who must be stopped and killed at all, you know, any costs. And I didn't quite view him that way. And I like villains that have lots of shades of grey and are not black and white, and he wasn't. And I kind of actually considered him, you know, well, obviously he's the main character because he's the, you know, the Phantom of the Opera. It's the title of the story. But, you know, from the film's point of view, you're really looking at Christine and Raoul as the main characters. But for me, I was rooting for the Phantom in a way, not rooting for him, but I sympathised with him more than I did Christine or Raoul. I mean, Raoul, actually, I did sympathise with him because he was just a simple guy who, you know, he's in love with Christine, they're together, and at the beginning of the film, he says, let's go get married, you know, you're a success at the opera now, so let's go and get married. And she's like, oh, let your love for me die, you know, I'm going to stay here with my career. And we later find out that she's kind of, you know, entranced with the Phantom. She doesn't know he's the Phantom at this point, but, you know, she kind of comes across as a bit of a bitch, really. You know, she casts aside her boyfriend for her career and for someone else, and then as soon as she finds out, you know, who the Phantom is, she gets very scared, and then she goes straight back to Raoul, and then they have like the love story back again, all happy family. But I didn't quite buy into that. You know, I sympathized for Raoul because he just seemed like the nice guy who was in love with Christine, but the Phantom, as horrible as he was, I could see why he was the way he was, and that's something that's great in films. So I loved his character, I loved his depth, I loved the way Lon Chaney portrayed him. You know, the mask is creepy as hell, and when it finally gets revealed and it's taken off, I mean, the reveal of that shot is incredible. And I heard that was kept a secret. The way Lon Chaney really looked behind the mask was kept secret before the film's premiere, and people were jumping out of their seats, and I can imagine that in the 20s. And just awesome. I'd love to be in the cinema to see that at the time in 1925. The shock, because the makeup is fantastic, and he's so animated in performing the character, and even when he has the mask on and there's not much expression, just his body movements are great. And there's moments of humor in here that I liked, and that the opera house itself looks so fantastic and grand, and the color tinting worked beautifully, and the scene with the, you know, the colorization stuff I loved, though I was a bit unsure whether is that how it was originally supposed to be, you know. So I'd really like to know that, because if they were going to hand tint that, or however they did it in 1925, like to just have his cape and his, you know, the red part of his outfit in the masquerade scene, that would take such a long time. It's one thing to have Battleship Potemkin where you got a, you know, 2-second shot of a red flag with black and white, but to do that with that whole long scene would be really, really time consuming. So if anyone knows, I'll probably try and look it up and maybe come back to this at the end of the marathon, because it's definitely one I want to come back to and give some more final thoughts on, or at least just give it a name check as one of the favourite ones I've seen in this marathon for sure. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Music was great. That was composed by Carl Davis, I think in the 90s, so it's not the original score, but overall, top to bottom, you know, even if it is, you know, not the true original version of the film, it was still a silent film. It still had the intertitles, and it still was captivating with lack of dialogue. The ending I wasn't too sure about. It seemed a bit too harsh an ending, but yeah, I'll come back to this one, but definitely, you know, very, very high praise for this film. Absolutely loved it. You know, compared to something like Nosferatu, I much prefer this film to that in terms of like a horror-y kind of. I won't call this a horror. I don't know. It's more of a tragedy to me. It feels like a you know, yeah, tragedy drama in a way. But yeah, absolutely love this film. Amazing. And that is 3 films for today again, if you include the Buster Keaton short. And I'm not sure when the 4th day will be. I might skip it a day tomorrow over the weekend or something like that and see what happens, see how I'm feeling. I'll get back to the Silent Movie Marathon 2. Loving it so far, especially now that I'm getting to some real classics. I'm just absolutely loving this one, definitely included. There we go.